Hey, good morning, St. Max. It's the second day of spring. The sun is shining, and who knows how long we'll be kind of in this state. Could be 2 weeks, could be 2 months. I don't know. But I was thinking, when it's all done, what do we want to look back and say we did or we accomplished or I look back at my own life, and there's one point in my life where I really want to kick myself, and that was maybe my sophomore year of college. I had classes only on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I had 4-day weekends every single weekend, and I don't think I was working. I don't think I was studying. I was just hanging out with friends and accomplishing nothing. I really want to kick myself. So we could use this as an awesome opportunity to do all those things that we've been saying. If I only had time, I would. Or we can watch a lot of Netflix and YouTube and spend a lot of time on Facebook. One thing we've probably all been saying is, if I had time, I would pray more. Well, great. We all just got gifted a bunch of time. We're not commuting to work anymore. We're not on the school bus anymore. So can we commute that time into prayer? Can we be intentional about that and just block out some time for prayer? And one of the things I'd like to do is help us in that endeavor. Like, what do I do when I pray? Well, the most important thing is just showing up. We just show up to prayer. The Adoration Chapel is at St. Max in St. Peter's Church, 24/7. Go over there, spend some time in prayer, or spend some time in your own space, in your own house, in your own room. This is usually where I pray my morning prayers with my coffee in the morning, and then I go down into my chapel on the rectory. That's one of the perks of being a priest. But even if nothing is happening, we still show up. We spend that time with Jesus. You can think of it as, when somebody is in the hospital, even if they're unconscious, you still go and spend time with them, your loved ones. And it doesn't matter if you can't communicate with them or they're not saying anything back to you. You still sit there with them. And that can be part of our prayer as well. One little way to pray that I'd like to encourage you today is a way in which we bring our heart to Jesus, bring our thoughts, our emotions, what's really getting to us. Because we're all feeling all sorts of emotions right now. And if we don't bring them to Jesus, they can kind of come out sideways. It might come out in irritability to our family, whom we're now, more confined with. It might come out in some sinful ways, and we don't want that. But if we don't bring it to Jesus, it's more likely. So the first thing we have to do is acknowledge what we're feeling. Acknowledge what's on our heart. I do this often in prayer. I've been trying to think, well, what am I feeling? I mentioned yesterday or a couple of days ago all sorts of fluctuation of emotion. Sometimes we just go through our day and we find ourselves being irritable and cranky or whatever, and we don't stop to think what that is or why it's happening. And that can just lead us to keep going through this downward spiral oftentimes. So what am I feeling? So acknowledge that, admit that, and then relate that to Jesus. Jesus, I'm afraid. Jesus, I'm sad. Jesus, I'm concerned. We can bring those to the Lord and allow Him to do something with them. And then the next step is receiving whatever he wants to give us. We might sit with him and receive that. What's he want to do? What little word of encouragement does he want to give? It might not happen right away. We might have to wait for it. We might have to bring this to him several times. But eventually, he's going to communicate something to our heart in a way that will allow us more freedom in that area. And then when that happens, our last goal is to respond. How do I respond to that word from the Lord? So acknowledge, relate, receive, respond. Let me give you an example from my own life. I was doing marriage prep one time with a couple. This was not a couple at St. Max. And it was not going well. The way that they were living was not going to be helpful for their marriage. And they were very dismissive to any of my suggestions. And in it, they kept saying, "No, Father, we want you to prepare us for marriage, but in our way." I felt like if you went to the doctor and said, "Oh, doctor, I eat 10 bags of potato chips every day," and he says, "Well, I think you should stop," and you said, "No, I'm going to keep doing that, but I still want you to give me tips on how I can be healthy." The doctor says, that's the only tip right now. There's nothing else that you can do to be healthy except for that. If you're not going to do that, you're not going to be healthy. That's what I felt like. So this meeting went very poorly. We left on sour terms, and I was really angry. And I went to the Adoration Chapel immediately, and I knelt down in front of Jesus, and I just said, "Jesus, I'm angry." So I had acknowledged it already. I knew I was angry, and then I brought it to Jesus. "Jesus, I'm angry." I stayed there for about 5 minutes or so. I had other things that I had to get back to, and I didn't really receive anything from the Lord that time. The next morning in my holy hour, I said again, I was still angry. I said, "Lord, I'm angry." Nothing. Next day in my holy hour, "Jesus, I'm angry." And then I felt Jesus say, "Kyle, are you angry at that couple because they wouldn't listen to you? Or are you angry because you think you're a bad priest?" Well, I realized that I really thought that I was a bad priest in that moment. And that's what was getting me down. And the Lord's encouragement in that was, "Look, I have this. I'll take care of them. You don't have to worry about them. I don't think you're a bad priest." So to be able to receive that was very freeing. Immediately that anger dissipated. Immediately I felt the encouragement of the Father. And I was able to let go of that. And the response was letting go and trusting that couple to the Lord, and then kind of reevaluating some of the ways that I go about marriage prep. So in this same way, you can do that. You can do that right now. You can do that anytime. You can do that in front of the Blessed Sacrament. You can do it in your house. You can do it in the silence of your heart. You can do it out loud. But it's a beautiful way to connect with Jesus. In the same way that when we go to confession, we're acknowledging what we've done and we're bringing it to Jesus. And then he can heal us. So let's take advantage of Christ's presence with us in the Blessed Sacrament. He who's always present with us in our hearts whenever we turn to him. Let's bring him our emotions, whatever crazy emotions we're feeling right now, and continue to do that. Let's set time aside for prayer. Let's set time aside to be with one another. I'd say one of the gifts so far in all of this is me and my priest housemates have been able to have dinner every night together this week, which has been really cool. So I hope that you're able to have some family time. I hope that you're able to make the most of this. And we'll keep checking in here as well. All right. God bless.